We just had a riveting discussion about birds, what constitutes them.
Yeah.
But that's not what this channel's about. This channel's all about movies. What can we say about them until we've gone way overboard and over time?
Yep.
That's the actual name of this channel. We had to change it. It was too long. Just like our videos about movies.
Damn, dude, they're way too long.
Anyway, I guess you could call them reviews, but really we just like to talk about movies and then say, this is our grade.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call that, that's what we do.
Definitely not a review.
Look, man, today we indulged in the movie that I have... basically, I guess I've sang its song many a times, and I fear when I do that and I show you something, because I fear, I've built up an expectation or an idea in your head, and inevitably, since you're prone to cross your arms and stare at things in
obsession with saying that.
I fear that I have built it up too much and that you're gonna hate it. So I don't know where you stand on the church, because as is typical, and I appreciate this for the most part, you stay quiet during movie watchings. Movie viewings, I'm sorry, which is a quality I actually like, because I don't want to hear Nathan while I'm watching a movie. But that also means I don't know what the fuck you think about him most of the time until we do these videos. So it's time to let out the bird from the cage, if you will, about the church, aka La Chiesa, aka Demons 3. Yes, that's right. If you don't know this, The Church is technically Demons Part 3 from the series that was started by Lamberto Bava, who was, one of the assistant directors to legend of cinema, Italian cinema anyway, Dario Argento, who, if you are not kept up with him, sucks balls as a director now, but used to be just one of the best, most visually intense directors out there. And Lamberto Bava contributed a lot to that look, to that ability to capture imagery and just rich color and what have you, setup shots. He had a lot to do with that. However, Lamberto Bava wanted to stretch out his his legs in the industry, and Dario said, well, you can have a movie. Here's some movies. And one of those movies was Demons, which went on to be kind of like a breakout success of its own. But you've seen Demons. It's been a long time since you've seen it, but I think we can all admit, even if we like Demons, the movie, not the spiritual beings that hate us, that Demons is a pretty shitty movie. You know what I'm saying? It's rife with all the troubles and tropes of Italian cinema. On top of that, it's supposed to be a kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it kind of like sucks at doing that too. So it's just a fun movie to watch at the end of the day. But yeah, it has all the trappings from the shitty acting to the kind of shambolic storytelling and all that stuff that is part of the course with a lot of Italian horror cinema. Bava came back for Demons 2, which in my opinion is a pretty shitty movie, period. Not one that's fun to watch. Just a shitty movie, though it has its fans. And I think by part 3, he was like, yeah, I'm not doing very good with this. I don't want to come back. However, by then, this cat, this feline named Michele Soavi, had, kind of risen in the ranks of Argento's inner circle. He was an admirer of Argento's, his work, not his hideous face. And he was, he kind of had worked his way up the ladder, fucking, or like a Reese Witherspoon in that fucking Vanity Fair movie. It's actually a book. I just want to sound dumber. But anyway, he had worked his way up the ranks. That just made you sound dumber, so thanks.
Am I supposed to know what that is? Reese Witherspoon?
Man, that was a good movie, man. Which is an adaptation of a book. Anyway.
What the hell movie are you talking about?
Vanity Fair, I pointed it out.
Oh, that's what it's called?
The point is, we're not talking about the magazine, which sucks. Anyway, Michele Soavi had worked his way up in Argento's circle, and he kind of got in the position where he did enough AD work and cinematography work for Argento to go, you know what, man, I like you, and clearly my skills are fucking going down the crapper fast. So here's a movie you can do, Demons 3. And Argento had written this script with a co-writer whose name I forget, because who gives a damn. And he gave it to Soavi. And here's something that I've kind of always liked about Argento. I don't know how true it is now, because he really doesn't possess the the sway and power he did back in the day, but he was pretty generous, man. You know, like if he liked you, if he thought you could do something with your talent, presumed or proven, he would throw you a fucking bone, maybe even literally. And that's exactly what he did with Michele Soavi. He said, you can have a movie, make it your own. Here's the script. If you want to change it, go ahead and change it. And Michele Soavi already had some work under his belt, but you know, with La Chiesa, he kind of had the green light and a budget to go and do as he pleased. And here's the thing about Michele Soavi: he quickly built a cult following. If you're watching this with knowledge of who he is, that's probably the reason you're even watching this. If not, well, then here's an introduction to Soavi through this video. But Soavi's an interesting cat himself too, man. He built up a quick cult following, which kind of reached its peak with the movie De la Morte dell'Amore, aka Cemetery Man, which is based on a famous series called Dylan Dog, which later there was a movie made out of that with fucking Superman's big dick in it. You know,
Damn,
but
it's just his dick. It's that big.
But De la Morte dell'Amore, aka Cemetery Man, is kind of like considered by many to be the definitive Soavi movie, and it is a great movie.
I think it's pretty suave.
That's what they say. That's what Elvis Crespo said on the blurb.
Suavemente.
He went, suavemente.
God damn.
La mire. A esa película cuando yo me la jale.
This is where everybody drops off watching.
Totally, man. If you don't get that reference, good for you.
Yeah,
trust me.
true.
You don't want to get that one. But anyway, Michele Soavi, Cemetery Man, that's kind of like his calling card, you know? And it's kind of sad because after Cemetery Man, at the height, the nadir of his fucking powers, you know, he gained international fame by that point. He had to drop out of the business. I mean, he didn't have to, but his son was sick and he chose to, which is a pretty admirable thing, man. You know, he could have been.
Oh, he did the Rick Moranis.
Yeah, he did. He could have been like kept on riding that insane fame train, but he chose to do the lame son train. And by lame, I mean sick, not lame as in crappy.
Damn, homie.
That's an actual term to use for. But anyway. The point is, he did that, and that's pretty admirable, man. He has since come back, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen the few movies he's made since then, but I also haven't heard much about him. So I don't know what that means. But the point is, he did leave an imprint on the industry. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Cemetery Man,
yeah,
and it is great, I've always kind of had a preference for The Church. And don't get me wrong, Cemetery Man is a better movie than The Church, but there's something about The Church that, one, and you know me, piques my particular interests. That's one thing. And two, I also kind of like that it kind of deserves to not be called Demons 3, even though it's super about demons. But Demons already had that kind of stink, you know, the Bava stink, for better or for worse.
Like pure spit.
You know, he made something distinctly different with that particular franchise. So much so that they're like, let's not call it that.
Yeah.
Let's call it its own thing here. So what is this chuckle? I hate it.
Why?
What was that? Yeah, conspiratorially followed by this malicious chuckle. Anyway.
Well, I guess.
That's what happened.
Did it?
Roll back the footage, that bean footage. So yeah, anyway, man, The Church. It's this movie that, admittedly, its cult has grown as the years have passed, especially as more people want to explore more after seeing Cemetery Man. And, you know, but it's still a relatively underground and unknown film here, unless you're like a big Italian horror fan or just a relatively big horror fan. So let's talk about this flickaroonie here. First, let's talk about the things that it does keep in common with the franchise that it's a part of, you know, and that's the idea of demons being unleashed, possessing the living, and generally being stuck in one place with these entities. That's about it. That's about the only thing this thing keeps with that. Goner is kind of like the super intense tongue-in-cheek humor, the over dependence on gore or extremism That's kind of gone, even though, it's still an Italian movie, so you still get some grooves here and there, of course. But replacing the tendency to go graphic is more of Soavi's attempt to go atmospheric and heavily visual, to the point of almost surrealism at times. So, though it keeps a general vague structure, it does go in its own way. So, just get that out of the way. Let's talk about the church. What do you think, man? Do you hate? Do you love? Do you aardvark?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of don't know what to think.
Okay.
I feel like it's very weak in a lot of time, in a lot of points, but it works well in others.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of left like, damn, homie. I don't know.
Is that because of me or just in general?
Just in
In
general.
your opinion,
Just in general.
did I destroy this for you?
Not really. For as much as
I feel like I've destroyed a lot.
nah, for as much as you've built it up, you've never really mentioned anything. So I didn't have any freaking.
All right, well, let's go on that. The reason I've never really detailed the movie is because this is a movie, like a lot of Italian movies, especially at the time when it comes to the genre of horror, that you just kind of have to experience.
Yeah.
Because with Italian horror, it's very give or take, Even fans of Italian horror movies have a hard time consuming some Italian horror. It's so unconventional, sometimes clumsy, sometimes downright bad. It just depends on who's making the damn thing. So it's something you have to see. Second, I feel that Soavi, his strengths lie in the way he shows you things. You know what I'm saying? He's a very visual artist. And though the church is a guy, in this case him, a guy starting to stretch his legs out in this position of director, immediately the thing that impacted me when I first saw this movie, and still does to this day, is how much of an eye he has for things. He did things that weren't particularly the standard, save for his, mentor Dario Argento in the industry. He moved the camera around in ways that just kind of didn't see back then. And on top of that, he framed things in such an interesting way, and he dedicated himself to bringing visual aspects to life in such a way that they remain imprinted in your mind if you see it. I'll tell you this: the first time I saw this movie, I was kind of unsure too. I knew that I didn't hate it, and I knew that I had to own it. That's kind of where I was at. I was like, this was an interesting movie. And then the other thing was, I have to have a copy of it because I know I want to revisit it. It's one of those, for me anyway. Upon further viewings, it became a favorite. You know what I'm saying? And it remains a favorite to this day. And here's the interesting part about Italian horror and this movie. Italian horror always thought that the audience was dumb. I don't know if that's because they literally thought that or because it's just inherent in that industry. I don't know, but there's a lot of explaining that, a lot exposition or otherwise, that Italian horror scripts do, And Soavi here kind of rides a weird fucking horse into this battle because he's kind of like in Fulci territory when it comes to weird surreality, but not entirely there. He doesn't go all the way in like the Beyond. A lot of this stuff is implied. A lot of this stuff is again a part of like the demonic manipulations of the mind or whatever, and you understand that. And again, you understand the plot, and yet there's pivotal moments in this movie where they don't fucking explain what the fuck or why, and you're kind of like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a weird thing, it's writing both ends, and I don't know if that's just incompetence or the way it was done, but it's a weird idea, You don't fully understand some things, but then at the same time, you're kind of grateful that they didn't go whole hog and explain those things too. But at the same time, you over understand other things to the point where you're like, yep, seen that 1,000 times in fucking Italian horror. But so it's interesting in that regard because I want to say he struck a balance because it doesn't. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
On the other end, to go to where you were at with, your conflicted view, there's a part of this movie where you could still see Dario Argento's, oh, no, I'm sorry, not Dario Argento's, you could still see the imprint of the former script and how it was going to fit into the Demon series. And there's literally a part in the movie where all of a sudden, boom, we're introduced to people that are going to be fodder, and that is very much in tune with the previous two films in the series, where that's going to go. But again, and this causes that conflicting notion, what he does with that is completely against the tide of what the other Demon movies do. Because, again, he just uses it to feed into this weird kind of like pseudo-surreality that he has going on. So it creates a very different, unbalanced film, but it is one that I very, very highly enjoy. Now, I don't know how you're going to take this later if you ever choose to watch it again or we ever choose to watch it again or whatever. But I will tell you that, yeah, my first time watching this, I was like, I'm not too sure, but I know that I have to see this again, and I know that I have to own it. So take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, if you haven't seen The Church, it's basically a demon possession movie, but with the unique location of this Gothic cathedral. This is where all the mayhem takes place instead of your standard cabin in the woods or what have you. And it's all the mayhem that ensues is because this church has been built atop a gravesite of a massacre that was done by a group of the Teutonic Knights, which, of course, if you know your history, had kind of a notoriety about their actions, famously linked to the Templar Knights and the possible worship of demons and then what have you, at least the accusations there. So the beginning, the intro prologue, if you will, to this starts in the past where this is set up, and the idea is laid down that the people that the Knights are killing may or may not be innocent. The implication of this, just by the horror genre alone, is that the church is corrupt and they're doing something evil to something good. But there's also kind of elements at the beginning that make you go, wait a minute, were they evil? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's never really clarified. They could have been possibly evil, but it's never 100%. What does come across the board is that what the events that happened there did draw some sort of demonic entities to the place, because we see both the knights and the people that were massacred as part of the haunting appearances in the church. So again, there's that kind of vagueness there. But anyway, the presence is locked underneath the church. A church is built on top of it, and this takes us to the modern days. Then this is where these creatures are unleashed. And give me something, man, about this movie, good or bad.
I think the major negative I have with it is that there's good stuff there, that you could see is good, but there is like very, very you can feel the limitations.
Example.
It just doesn't. I don't know if it's a visual thing. It just doesn't reach where it's trying to get to. A lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really point at what it is. Some of the stuff some of the scenes, some of the creepier scenes they build up to are built up well, but then when the moment comes, it just doesn't really reach, the height that it should. Again, I don't really know what it is, but that is kind of what I felt, throughout the movie. So yeah.
I don't know what to say because you didn't point out to a specific moment, but I'll try.
I think it's just like the whole movie, honestly.
Yeah, I know, but something that that I could use as an example.
Yeah.
But I'll try to find a moment. I think I know what you're saying, you know what you're referring to, but I'll use this example. Ozzy Argento, by the way, is in this movie, and it's her second role. Demons 2 was her first role, but anyway, she plays the child of the sacristan who works at the church, and she's kind of like the reincarnated spirit of a child that witnessed the massacre back in the day, unaware of it though she may be. And she's kind of a child that's in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to the place she's supposed to be spiritually versus the world that she craves to live in. You know, which of course, from a spiritual warfare kind of viewpoint, is great ground for demons to lay their seeds, right? So she's kind of like this bystander innocent as far as that goes. Well, anyway, she finds a way to sneak out of the church each night so that she could go and indulge in the world, so to speak, which brings on the wrath of her father. However, when these demons are unleashed, they exploit the weaknesses of whoever they come in contact with. And it's kind of like almost like a fucking infestation type of thing, you know, like a zombie virus type of thing. The demons need to come in contact physically to pass on, but whoever they do pass on to, they kind of double up on whatever their particular weakness is. So in the case of her father, he comes off as overtly moral, even though he is now possessed by a demon. Which, by the way, you kind of get a visual of on this humongous, disturbing fresco that is being restored in the fucking church. Anyway, there's a point where now the demon-possessed father catches her from coming back from one of her forays out into the real world, and you understand by this point that he is possessed and what have you, but he's being overly moral with her nonetheless, and you know, as she kind of like squirms and screams, trying to get out of being punished by him physically. Catch a glimpse of him in the mirror, and he's this weird bird demon thing that we saw in this fresco, and even he's kind of like, what the hell, kind of like fascinated by the fact that he's just realized this or what have you. But anyway, the type of build up around the scene like that, as you can imagine, is pivotal to making it work. Am I kind of on the right track to what you were saying, maybe?
I feel like
I'm just using one example.
Yeah, I mean, there's several moments like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you need a certain type of build up to get to that point for that scene to work. And you said you were unsure whether it was a completely visual thing or not. I don't know. I can't say. To me, that works. I think that's kind of like.
I feel like I'm just gonna throw another negative in there because it does contribute to that feeling. Now, I've watched my fair share of Italian film.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been bothered by the dubbing. In fact, I've actually praised it before and making it feel kind of disconnected and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first time I was actually like, this is bad dubbing. And it's kind of distracting. And I think that some of those scenes don't work because of how badly dubbed they are. And it does kind of reduce the creep factor in a lot of the scenes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to say that it doesn't work because of that, fully.
It's an element.
Yeah, it's an element. And it's weird because I didn't expect it. Like I said, I've seen my fair share and I don't think I've ever been bothered by it. I don't think it breaks the movie, but it is something that I was like, man, this is kind of bad.
It is. I mean, to me, most Italian horror movies have horrible fucking dubbing. It didn't bug me, but I could see where it could bug someone. It just doesn't bother me with this movie for this reason. It's an overtly visual movie, and despite how the script with its, kind of like heavy lean on exposition and all that jazz, despite how much that tries to topple over, I think Soavi is making a movie that says more visually than otherwise. Even though, again, the script is trying to constantly fight against that.
I do think that it does play a factor into breaking the atmosphere that the movie is trying to build. For me, Is all I'm saying.
The dubbing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dubbing.
Okay.
Like I've been able to get past that before, like in City of the freaking Gates of Hell and shit like that. I actually liked it in that. But yeah, it is something I was kind of like, this is weird, and I felt weird because, like I said, I had never been bothered by it before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't say that I share that point of view because I don't, and it has strictly to do with what's being laid out there. Again, kind of this visual tapestry. There are some really like silly things in it. Like there's this old couple that's pretty hilarious, and the dubbing's pretty hilarious too in its bad way. For the one that's like, hey, you know.
His name Eustace or something?
I forgot his name, man. Urenio? I don't know.
It's weird because, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that kind of clashes with the atmosphere it's trying to build. And I'm not even going to shit on that, though, because I actually kind of like that stuff. Like that character and shit. And So, but yeah, it's weird that it is trying to go for this kind of creepy... like at times I think it felt kind of like The Keep.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in that more like, that kind of dreamlike feel, at points. It just, I don't know, it didn't really hit for me.
That's the one thing, that's, I guess, the element I should say that I like the most about this movie is that kind of like weird dreamlike quality. Once, and it starts pretty quick because this is an Italian movie. Once we get into what happened, that prologue, okay, that's what happened. We know instinctually as viewers, this is what's going to happen. These things are going to be released, and eventually some sort of chaos will erupt or whatever, right? From that point forward, I'm in, man. You know what I'm saying? Again, the way he visually represents things is pretty cool to me. The image, the kind of like dreamlike visions that people have of this thing being unleashed, the way the shots and the camera work show the influence coming out or transferring or whatever. When our main character, or who we think is our main character, is in full possession mode, it's kind of weird and kind of humorous at the same time. He's at his typewriter, typing over and over again. Little things like that. And then, again, we have the idea of these demons trying to grow in power before they can break out of the confines of the church and basically take over the world. And, it harkens back to like Rosemary's Baby with the idea being if they create a physical vessel, then they can do this, right?
Yeah. So
we have this very strange, like, tableau of this fucking hideous demon straight out of a woodcut fucking someone. And, there's even a shot in the movie where one of the rando characters that gets introduced is being tempted by the demon, and her lover is just following her. Insecure lover is following her around the church. And mind you, those characters suck balls, and they're clearly there for fodder. But anyway, he's following her around the church, and he comes around a corner, and it's clear by what we see that the demon has taken her, and she is kind of unaware of that. But it's feeding off his insecurity. It's this kind of like smoldering, sexy demon with wings. And the chick is naked, and he's kind of just glaring at the dude while grabbing her ass. Which, by the way, that image comes out of a Boris Vallejo painting. And it just kind of glides, going totally cucking you, dude, into behind a pillar. Anyway, stuff like that, I just find it's a very interesting way to me to communicate the idea of like a demon tempting people. It's just very different to what we're standard used to, I guess.
I do think, though, again, I think this is where the visual thing that I was trying to get to earlier comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff does work, like when the who we think is the hero chick,
right?
And I guess is getting destroyed or chased down by goat guy, and you just see like this glimpse of the goat guy and the bird dude in that scene. They do work, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there is kind of like you could see a limitation there. At least I can. That is a little bit tragic. Like, man, this could have been really, really effective.
Limitation, effects wise.
I don't know if it's
what wise.
maybe like lighting wise. I would say like I think the effect is actually pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
The effects. I don't know if it's just like a lighting thing. It's just something visual that doesn't fully get there, and it's a little bit tragic for me because they are. If you could see them being really effective, really, really effective as they are effective.
Mm-hmm.
But there is kind of something there that I can't point at.
So there you go. See, again, I'm on the complete opposite. I think everything effects wise, again, taking into mind what we're looking at here, an Italian 80s horror movie, looks really good, man.
I think
the effects look pretty fucking badass, to be honest with you.
I think that's kind of like, you keep saying for an Italian movie.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that is what it is, an Italian horror movie. I feel like this is kind of that this could have easily been like a higher class horror movie, and it's trapped in an Italian movie.
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what I find so tragic about it.
And I would agree with that sentiment. Because
like I could easily see this being directed by like the dude that did like the Hereditary or something, and it being freaking creepy as shit. You know what I mean?
Well, look, that's a really great way of putting it, and I think you'll understand that, because that made me 100% understand where you're at, and then I think you'll understand where I'm at. That's why I like this movie, because I see Soavi's imprint in this. I see him going, this is what I have, this is what I can do. However, I'm still making this movie for this guy.
Yeah.
And I really like what he put into it, and you can tell when it's the stuff that Argento was writing for a series that was crappy. It was a demon series. You can tell the difference. Those crappy characters and the weird stupid humor at times. You can tell when it's that, and you can tell when it's Soavi.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we're on the same page, just on different freaking ends of the spectrum, because like I was actually kind of digging it up until they kind of introduced like these weird, like these side characters. They just kind of feel like they come out of nowhere, and you could totally just see why they're there. And though they have effective creepy scenes, you can just see why they're there. It's kind of transparent. And I think that is ultimately why I'm kind of like, damn, homie, this could have been this, but it's this.
Yeah. And again, I say that's probably,
like I said, like I felt like very keepish. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the keep, right? Vibes at times, almost like a Prince of Darkness-y feel at times. But it's trapped in this like kind of mold that it has to fit into.
I agree, and I agree with that 100%. And that's why maybe upon further viewings, maybe you'll. I'm not gonna say your point of view will change, because that is true. I agree with it. But you'll appreciate this more than that. You know what I'm saying? These things coexist, and we can't help that. But that's why I like the Soavi stuff is so strong. And again, and I think you'll agree with this, the Soavi stuff is very visual versus the other stuff, which is in the dumber part of the script, which is like, this is a demons movie, guys, and we're telling you stuff. So yeah, anyway, I think one of the strongest visual pieces, and you'll tell me yours, for me is when we reach the apex of the events in the church. And he, again, I will give praise to this. The way he demonstrates demon possession in this movie is completely different to the way we're used to seeing it. We're used to seeing like, or, pea soup or what have you. His is weird, man. Like, the characters behave just strangely. And they're at times unaware that they're even possessed. And at others, they reach a point where they're like resigned to the possession. The different characters react differently to the possession. Some aware, some not. Some, again, as aforementioned, resigned. I like that. Again, I'm unsure whether that was intentional or not, but it seems intentional. There was just too many people getting to that point of realization for it not to be. But I like that. But anyway, when things reach their peak and all these weird things have happened, demons seem to be achieving their plan, and things are manifesting, and the cesspit of bodies that was buried under that church long ago begins to rise from underneath the foundation, and it's the bodies have formed the head of a demon. And they're right. I thought that was such a strong visual image. It's creepy. It's straight out of fucking Hieronymus Bosch. It's strange. It's just weird shit. And again, I guess you could see it from two angles. You could see it from the man. I wish I could see this in a movie that's way better than this, artsier, I guess. But as it is, I'm like, whoa, that's just, and there's a lot of moments like that for me in the movie. But I think that's kind of like one of those peak moments. Also, the ending, I think, is pretty strong. And again, harkens back to stuff like, the Beyond, if we're sticking to, Italian cinema. So, anyway, give me something. What was the strongest moment for you, the weakest moment for you? And was it,
I think a moment that I found weirdly cool was when that homie that looks like a cross between Clive Barker and Scott Bakula.
Who was that?
The guy gets possessed first.
Oh, I thought he looked like a cross between Clive Barker and David Cronenberg.
Yeah, that's
right?
too. I was thinking like a in between Clive Barker when he was jacked and now, mixed with Scott Bakula. But I could totally see the crone.
The crone bone?
The crone bone.
Totally had a baby.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, we'll see with him.
Oh yeah, when he's opening the little like seal or whatever, and he's looking in, and it's got this kind of like cool, like the cross falls in. It's like this weird kind of like watery feel.
Oh yeah.
And then there's like this zoom up, very Keep like.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was like, oh, that really works. The feel that it had. And you kind of get what happens after that. You kind of get what the demons are doing, or how they work.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I think one that didn't work was when that homie, the black homie, which I like the black homie, by the way. The black homie looked like a straight up hero, a horror hero. I kind of wish he had a little more screen time.
Yeah, really.
Because he was really good. He was cool. Anyway, when the black homie's like doing the freaking arrow, and there's this like knight that runs at him, and it's like sped up, hella corny looking.
I love that.
Serious?
I loved it.
All I could think of was freaking Monty Python.
No.
When the freaking knight is coming at the.
You know why that works for me? Because it's what do they call it? It's incongruous to real time. So the image works.
I thought it looked hella corn, but then again, I'm known for eating corn, so maybe it's a good thing.
And dressing like hella while doing it.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
It's just the head dress.
Oh,
everything's
just green. This is the gangrene.
Man, homie, what I got gangrene?
All right, so.
But really, the biggest failure is. It is trapped in an Italian movie. I just had to pick a scene. So.
It's worthy to note that the score in this is kind of an interesting story of its own. Initially, they commissioned Keith Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer to do it, and he did independently of the production. In other words, he went there. There was nobody to tell him, I want this instead of that. Soavi apparently was just like, I trust this guy, and or I can't afford to do that with this movie. And the score was brought back in. Soavi was like, this is a thing. He liked parts of it, but he didn't like all of it. So because he felt a lot of it was just too, in your face. So they ended up using only portions of that score. And then one of the members of Goblin, most famous for scoring tons of Dario Argento's work, reworked Philip Glass's scores, or certain music selections, I should say, into the majority of what we hear here in this particular movie, which I think is pretty cool, man. It lays a lot of groundwork with the atmosphere, even when sometimes the script again is fighting against that. That score is pretty fucking. It's pretty ominous. It's pretty creepy. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, I agree. That is something I enjoyed. Again, shades of the Keep.
Yeah.
And just that kind of weird sound.
Yeah, kind of like a consistent audio tapestry. It really never stops, kind of.
And that kind of like main theme with the is very keepy.
I think it's called
Is it? Yeah. They also use it in The Flash.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh no, that one's called Bulilu.
Oh, that's true.
This one's Bulili.
Damn, homie.
Very good, right?
Very different, yeah.
By Philip Gluss. Anyway,
Philip Bulili.
yeah, great score, man. Pretty damn great score.
So for that one song.
Yeah. If you're familiar with some of the actors in this movie, like Ozzy Argento, the dubbing they chose was like, whoa, it's like completely the opposite of what she sounds like. So I hear you on the dubbing there.
There's a priest that just sounds straight up like Skeletor.
Yeah, Gargamel guy.
He's like,
that's, you gotta admit, come on, homie, you gotta admit that was a great dub for him.
Well, the dub was bad.
Nah, man,
there's literally
that's a perfect voice for him.
There's a scene where this homie's like eating food, and the dubber's clearly like, ah, shit, he's still talking. So he's like, that being said, the voice is pretty great.
I mean, this is like, it's him.
Let's be honest. The dub is terrible, but the voice is pretty great.
What was I gonna say? You brought up the what turns out to be kind of our hero in this movie. We're under the impression that we have a protagonist hero here, but it actually ends up being that he's the way in for these fucking demons.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's pretty cool, man. That's not par of the course with horror. But anyway, who ends up being our hero is kind of like this lower tier priest who is very aware. And again, a lot of this is visual versus actually spoken. Very aware of the way the diocese he was working under is strange and unconventional, and yeah, maybe a little corrupt. We even get like shades of like racial tension between him and another character who kind of like sees him as lesser. I thought that would have been very interesting to explore. I'm sure they would have wanted to had not a script already been pre-written. It was interesting, and he is kind of like a character that I like you really, really like. And he does give us a conclusion to the movie that is pretty cool, and kind of like a self-sacrificial thing. But we, of course, this is a horror movie, so we do get that stinger, if you will. And by that I mean a B. But
yeah, dude, the B was not good.
Anything you want to add before we give a final score?
Yeah. That's it.
All right, man. So let's talk about this stain on my thing.
Yep.
Let's talk about this score here. Again, this the first score we're gonna give relative to other Italian horror movies of this ilk. And for context, we'll give you like Suspiria from Dario Argento. To me, is a 10. Full Cheese Beyond. If it's not a 10, it's close to it. So we can go from there. If that's the top, and the bottom is clearly some bullshit like Spasmo or Ator
or Anthropophagus.
Yeah, that was bad, huh?
Yeah.
Then we can go from there. So the first score is going to be on scale 1 to 10, comparative to its Italian horror ilk. Give it to me.
Okay. So, because it is kind of a clashing of feelings in this movie, I think that kind of stops it from reaching its full potential and creep factor, like a Beyond.
Cracker, if you will.
That being said, like you said, I could see this shit being hella creeps and working really well, so I got to give it props for that. Plus, it's got a cool goat guy. Like, whenever there's a goat guy, I gotta give it points.
Yeah, goat guy points is like that's an asterisk.
Yeah.
GGPs, I think we call them around here.
So, I'm conflicted, man. I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I do think that this might improve.
With the asterisk of first viewing score of confliction.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted on the movie as it is, so I have to give it like a 6.5. I can see its strengths.
Yeah.
But I do at this point feel that the limitations in which it has to survive or live in are tragic.
Okay. This is a favorite for me in the Italian horror genre, which, let's be honest, Italian horror movies of the era, late 70s to late 80s, it was rough. It was rough going, and that's generally considered the best era for their horror for their horror output to this day. You know what I'm saying? But they also created some visually striking and kind of genre bending fare. At their peaks and their heights. So when something comes out that impresses, it always kind of leaves a mark on me, and this movie kind of always left a mark on me. It is a movie that I've come to enjoy and appreciate more and more as the years have passed. I went from being like, to being like, that's right, I have sex with it. But yes, I agree that there are inherent weaknesses in it, but I think that the things that shine in it shine bright enough for me to not give a crap that those things are there, though they're very noticeable, i.e. that old guy that's like, ah!
Yeah, Eustace was pretty great.
But there's some really cool stuff here, and I think that stands out. I'm gonna give it a 7. I think that says it all, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Go Guy points included.
now Go Guy point. Then we'll go to 7.5.
Yeah.
But I took the Go Guy point off because you added the Go Guy point.
You know what's
GGP.
You know what's kind of sad? I kind of wanted to see that gross demon with the pincers.
Oh yeah, that would have been weird, huh?
Damn, homie.
Grinsers, I call him. I think.
I think his name is
Pinsor in the
yeah.
Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, that's his name is Pinsor.
So now on a standard horror scale, comparing it to some of the classics, very unfair ground it's standing on. Let's go. Give it to me.
I still gotta give it points because I do see some creep factor, and it reminded me of one of my faves, that being The Keep. So I'm gonna give it a damn, homie. There's a lot of classics.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough comparing it to some of the greats.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
All right.
I feel like that sounds really mean, but there's like Exorcist out there. There's some classics.
I think I'm only gonna drop it a point, man. Yes, those weaknesses are there, but and again, I'm going into bias territory here. I still really have a strong love for this movie. It's weird, it's crazy, so I'll just drop it a little point there. Not too bad, don't want to hobble it too much. But anyway, there you go. Tell us what you think about The Church. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. If you have seen Italian horror movies and you've never seen this, get on it, boy. Anyway, let us know what you think. Hit like, share, subscribe, hit the notification buttons. Yeah, because we're out.
Pinsor.